there's a famous unsolved murder case from late 40s Los Angeles known as the Black Dahlia. And there
Mhm.
is a theory that Wells was the perpetrator of that crime, and that's why he left very, very quickly. Who knows? You know, it's
That's
probably not true. I mean, I've heard of other suspects for that crime that seem much more likely, way more likely than Orson Welles. But that's one of the rumors that why he leaves Hollywood so quickly. So yeah, he's essentially in Europe till 1958, and then he goes back to the US to live, but then he moves back to Europe about 1964, and then he stays there for maybe another 10 years or so, and then he does go back to the States. He lives in Las Vegas for a while, and he lives in Arizona, I think, for a while. Then eventually he's kind of splitting his time between Las Vegas and Los Angeles, which is where he dies. But he's also at this point considering a move to Croatia. So there's a house in Croatia that Orson Welles built, still there today. His former partner still lives there. And apparently that was where he was going to spend the rest of his days once he'd retired.
oh, why Croatia? What was it that interested him about that country?
Uh, well, so 1962, he makes a film in Paris and he ends up having an affair with a lady called Oya Kodar, who's a Croatian model, actress, um, writer. And Miss Kodar, she's still alive, actually, Miss Kodar. I don't know her. She seems like a really interesting, nice lady. I'd love to meet her. And he gets with Oya Kodar in about 1964, so they have this affair, then they don't speak, then they get back together, and they essentially remain as partners for the last 20 years of Wells's life. At the same time, Wells is married to his third wife, and he basically splits his time between these two lives. And I don't think they ever really knew about each other until the final year or two of his life. Yeah, I mean it's just weird. So it's just so complicated because he's living in Los Angeles with Oya Kodar. His wife is living in Las Vegas. The pair of them essentially have separated, I think, in the last year while he's still alive because his wife's figured out what he's been up to. And then he dies, and then all the lawsuits start because he signed everything over to Oya Kodar. Kadar's like, well, this is all mine. And his wife's like, well, I'm actually legally his wife. This will looks a bit suspicious. So they end up all going to court. A year or so after he dies, while it's still going through the courts, his wife dies in a car accident in Las Vegas, and then his daughter, Beatrice, is the one that finally signs off on the agreement between the two camps. Beatrice and Oyakada are still alive today. I don't know if they talk to each other. I doubt that they do, but I do know that Wells's other surviving daughter, Christopher, has a or did have a good relationship with Oyakada.
So he did. His other child did have a good relationship, or didn't?
Yeah, so Wells had three daughters, but wanted a son. And this is a really fascinating part of the Wells legend. So his daughters are called Christopher, like a boy's name,
Mm.
Beatrice, which is his youngest daughter, and there's Rebecca, who's his middle daughter. Now, of his two daughters, Beatrice and Christopher are still alive today. Rebecca unfortunately passed away a few decades ago. Now, Rebecca's mother was Rita Hayworth, the actress Rita Hayworth. Now, Wells, throughout his life, according to Oikada, wanted a son, just wanted a boy, right? And he got three daughters and he really wanted a son. Now, Rebecca, in the early 1960s, when Wells is living in Spain, he's only seeing his daughter once a year or so. She finds herself pregnant and she has a little boy. And the little boy she gave up for adoption on birth. Her and Rita Hayworth arranged for the adoption of this boy, and he goes to live in, I think it's Montana or Missouri. And he grows up, he has no idea he's Orson Welles' grandson until about 2000. And suddenly he just decides one day, I'm going to go find out who my birth parents are. He looks it up, bam, he's the grandson of Orson Welles. And if you see this guy, he himself has passed away now. If you see this guy, if you see videos of him, if you see pictures of him, he's very obviously the grandson of Orson Welles. They've got a similar build, similar facial features, similar voice, and there's a film called Prodigal Sons, which this is one of the plot lines in it. It's a documentary film. It's really interesting to watch.